Hello, welcome back to Lemonade. I am Lexi Malott, your host, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Brandon Aksteter, who is a brand and communications specialist, and Bryce Mentzer, who is a videographer and editor. So welcome, Brandon and Bryce.
Great to be here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Now, I'm excited. We're talking about something that is near and dear to all of our hearts, and that is music, but specifically music and marketing. So to kick us off, I want to know a little bit more about your experience in music and what instruments you play.
Sure, I can go ahead and get started. I've been playing guitar for about 20 years. It's really my primary instrument. And I'm lucky enough to tour in a band as the lead guitarist with a country artist named Jackson Dean. Been lucky enough to go all across the US, to Australia, to Europe. So yeah, love playing music any way I can.
Just like Brandon, I've been playing guitar for around 15 years. It's always been a huge passion of mine. I've played in cover bands covering emo music to Americana and folk music, and I've been lucky enough to be able to tour with the band up and down the West Coast a couple years ago.
That's awesome. For me, my music experience, it's mostly through musical theater. So I'm very interested in music as a storytelling device and how it fits in that way. So Bryce, can you tell a little bit about why music is so important for video?
Yeah, definitely. I believe that music is really the driving force behind a video. I really believe it sets the tone for what a video is and what it can be. If the music is comedic or romantic or tense or triumphant, that really changes the atmosphere and the tone and the context of what the video is. Music can sometimes tell a story much better than just the visuals alone or a script alone. Through reoccurring motifs or themes, things like that, it really changes the atmosphere of the experience. I think sometimes that music can be a little manipulative, in a good way and a bad way. It can compensate for bad videos or bad scripts because music really is emotional and it can change our emotions. I think of the 1920s, the silent film era in cinema, and all of those films didn't have dialogue. They were driven by visuals and music, and the music was really what made Charlie Chaplin movies funny, or Buster Keaton films. I think of popular music soundtracks like Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and just from the first couple notes you know exactly what movie that is, and I think that's something really special.
Yeah, that's cool. And it definitely gives you a lot of control over the overall emotion of the video in general. So Brandon, can you talk a little bit about how music affects marketing?
I think Bryce said it really, really well. I think it's extremely important across all aspects of marketing and branding. You know, when you think of cinema and your favorite movies, some of the most sad scenes and the most uplifting scenes are really driven by that music that you don't always think about, but it's there. And I think if you were to see those same scenes without the music or even just the dialogue itself, it might not have the same impact. So music's extremely important. And also, as Bryce sort of alluded to, there are opportunities in marketing where visuals are not always available. Sometimes through the channel that you're using to reach your audience, whether that might be a radio ad or a podcast or whatnot, having music and sound be a big part of what you do as a brand and as a marketer is really important because it can represent your brand and your product, your service, when visuals may not be an option.
So Brandon, I know you've done some work in sonic branding in the past. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I'm really, really passionate about, and I think it's really important for brands as a whole. And in fact, the LMD Lemonade video series, I was lucky enough to work on the music and the sort of the sonic brand that helps introduce it, which is really exciting. So a sonic brand is really the audio version of a logo. Like I mentioned before, sometimes visuals are not always an option when it comes to marketing, and so having a sonic brand can be really, really useful because it helps introduce your brand through audio where visuals are not an option. And again, it's really sort of the audio version of your logo. So where you think a logo, has things like colors and font choice, typography, other design elements that come into play and set it apart to represent your brand. A sonic brand could do the exact same thing just through audio. So things like instrumentation that a sonic brand features, the key that it's in, whether it sounds kind of happy or sad, the pacing, the dynamics, and the volume, they all play a really important role. So when you think of sonic brands out there, there are a lot of them that are really, really common and really well known. You think of McDonald's, the ba-da-da-da-da sonic brand, that's really, really popular. It's been in the marketplace for years, and it really helps drive the goal for them, which is you want your sonic brand to be able to stand up where your logo does not exist and have it be instantly recognizable to your consumer.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it shows it's just another tool that you can add for building a compelling brand as a whole. So back to you, Bryce. When you are picking out music for a video, what process do you use for that?
So my general process for just starting the process of video editing is I like to get the general vibe and vision of the video that I'm creating. So then after I get the general vibe, I will go look for music on music licensing websites. And I'll go to those websites and just start narrowing down what kind of track I'm looking for through different filters they have, so different genres or vibes or moods that they have. And once I find a few tracks I like, I'll download the previews, usually 4 to 5 tracks I'll download. And then I'll insert them into my video editing software and just stack them on top of each other and solo each track with some of the footage I have until I have a track that I really like, and then I'll just start editing. And something I do with video editing is I really edit around the music. I let the music kind of inspire me. So yeah, I think that music is a very vital step in my process, and it's one of the very first steps.
Do you usually pick that out after you capture the footage, or do you ever pick it out beforehand?
Usually I'll pick the music out after I've shot the footage, but there are occasions where I will go into a project with music in mind, and sometimes capture footage based on what I think the music is telling me to do.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you. Brandon, you talked about making the sonic brand for Lemonade earlier. Are there any other times that you've created music for marketing? And if so, what's your process for that?
Yeah, definitely. So like you mentioned, I worked on the music for LMD's Lemonade videos. I've also done some music selection, as Bryce sort of talked about, working with clients to help set music that exists already and license that for video use, whether an online video or a commercial. And yeah, we've worked with a couple of clients as well, creating sonic brands as we've worked on their overall brand strategy. And it's been nice because it goes right alongside with the process of developing a logo. And so I've been able to work with designers and make sure I address the right tone through a sonic brand that works well and oftentimes is animated along with the logo at the end of a video, for example. And in terms of the process, I work in a tool called Logic. It's an app that comes from Apple, so it's available on MacBooks. There are other tools out there as well. Pro Tools is a big one. And they're what's called a digital audio workstation, or a DAW. So I work within that platform to create music. But really, just in terms of the process, again, it goes a lot back to what Bryce had already mentioned. It's about defining kind of the vibe that is right for a sonic brand that helps represent the logo and the brand as a whole. One of the techniques I like to use is when I think of the brand and the client, I might start with instrumentation. So let's say, for example, that we were working with an art museum or a museum of some sort. I like to think about the brand as a whole, and what their brand sounds like is really the question I'm trying to answer. Some of the instruments that immediately come to mind would be possibly something on piano or something on strings like an orchestra. And I kind of start there. I might pull out an acoustic guitar and just start kind of noodling around until I find something that fits the right pace, is short, succinct, and memorable really is the key. It's the same thing we want to address when we create logos. They need to be instantly recognizable and memorable. And so that's the goal through sonic branding as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting just how much it mirrors the logo creation process, but through an auditory lens. So what is a piece of advice that you would give to our audience right now about the power of music?
I would say definitely just don't let music be an afterthought. It may not need to be the focus of a project that you're working on, whether that's a sonic brand or a piece of music for video content. But definitely don't make it be the last step necessarily in your process. Try and make it really part of it from the beginning. We like to start with a creative brief when we work with our clients, and that helps document a number of things creatively that we want to address with the project. And I would say think of music at that point, and see how it can help inspire or inform a video, for example, or at the beginning of the process.
And I think some of my advice kind of goes off of what Brandon was talking about. I think don't solely rely on music to be the driver of the emotion in your video project. You definitely need a great script and great visuals. But when all of those elements kind of work together in harmony, that's when something really special comes out of it. Also, I would say seek great legal counsel, just so you don't get sued. But
yes, good advice.
Yeah. But let music inspire you. Listen to all types of music and open yourself up to it and just let it affect you.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing when it works hand in hand with the work and really elevates it to a new level that you didn't even know it could go to. So last question, since we're talking about music, I want to know, what song do you have on repeat right now?
So a song that I have on repeat is Ankles by Lucy Dacus. She just dropped an album on March 28th, so it's relatively new, but I've been really enjoying that album.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a huge Boy Genius fan, so anything by any of them just is always in rotation.
Oh, definitely. What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love that artist, Bryce. I would say, it is always changing for me. But over the past couple months, one of my favorite songs is called Cast Iron Skillet by an artist named Jason Isbell. I just think his lyric content in his songs is fantastic. It's extremely poetic. And the song itself is really catchy too. That's always stuck in my head, and I love listening to it on drives and wherever.
I would say for me, revisiting one of my favorite artists, group called Sammy Ray and the Friends, and their song Denim Jacket has been stuck in my head lately. Thank you so much, Brandon and Bryce, for joining us today. This was great conversation. I love music, and this was awesome to learn how it can really impact marketing in all different aspects. Thank you to our audience for watching, and join us next time for Lemonade, where the juice is worth the squeeze.